the plan for today is kind of similar to what I did about a week into my initial run of this game on Maddening, where I went back and given what, like having deeper game knowledge after a week of playing than I did right at the beginning, I went back and played some of the initial chapters over again with a different approach that I thought was better for the way the game actually works. Oh, hello, Pizza Hut Kid, man. Thanks for signing up as a member. I appreciate you joining up, and I really appreciate the support. Enjoy the emotes and your fancy new initiate icon, and welcome. Yeah, Cal, it is time for max XP brain rot. Kind of. I think certain changes introduced in 1.3.0 make some of the things I'm going to discuss today less important. But I still think there's a lot of value in doing what I'm going to show off up through Chapter 6, which is before you get the Ancient Well. It's before you really branch off and do different things depending on which units you want to use. So I think this is what I'm saying. What I'm going to show off today is pretty broadly applicable, and I think it's worth doing. Yes, Septi, it is a mystery.
I'm strong after all.
I don't... Electric VGC, I can't answer that question for you, whether it's going to make you want to restart or not.
Fire Emblem
That is up to you.
Engage.
But I am happy to report that compared to, like, considering what I thought, like, a week into playing the game, I was mostly right about what you should do and, like, what are the priorities in the first several chapters. I think a lot of the gameplay in the very beginning is really centralized around using Marth. He's extremely powerful, both in terms of making your best unit even better and actually capable of one-rounding the enemies, which is something that's really difficult to do in the early game without those strength and speed boosts and the extra attack you get from Divine Speed. But also he's an SP factory and an EXP factory very early on, which I think is worth investing in. Like it strains your bond fragment economy quite a bit to train up Marth to level 10 on multiple units, but having experimented with some different stuff, I think that is the right course. It's what you want to do with those early fragments. So some people are asking about the bug of what the growth mode in Maddening. In 1.3.0, if you've never beaten the game before, then I'll just quickly go through this. We can look at the menu here. If you have beaten the game, which I have on this now, I have a global save file that has beaten this. And by the way, I did my first run on my Nintendo Switch. Now I'm playing on my Nintendo PC. So I've got a couple nice features with that, like a 60 FPS mod and higher internal resolution. So hopefully it looks a little bit crisper. But anyway, if you've beaten the game before at all, then you get this growth type menu when you start a new game. And if you've never beaten Maddening, but you have beaten another mode, you will only be allowed to pick fixed when you start Maddening. And then that works as normal. Like nothing has changed on that front with 1.3.0. But if you've never beaten the game, then you don't have this growth type menu. And when you launch the game on Maddening in 1.3.0, it's actually all random, whereas before it was on fixed by default. So we think it's a bug because if you've beaten the game on a lower difficulty, you're still forced into fixed mode on your first Maddening run. But if Maddening is your very first run ever and you've never beaten the game before, then it's on random. And also, if you started to run on an earlier patch and then update to 1.3.0 and continue your first ever Maddening run, where you didn't have this growth type menu, so you'd never beaten the game before when you started your run in 1.2.0 or whatever, the units you already have will have fixed growths, but any units you recruit after that, so if you're at like chapter 15 and you go to chapter 16 and get Rosado and Goldmary, everyone you've gotten up to that point will have fixed growths, but Rosado and Goldmary and all subsequent units will have random growths. Any cosmetic mods this run? I haven't installed any cosmetics other than the frame rate patch. I do have some other mods that I'm running, just for the sake of transparency, I will let you know. To make this go a little bit faster without me having to rig anything, really, I did create my own little mod that applies 4 hidden skills to every single playable unit. One of them is forces them to always hit. One of them makes them never dodge enemy attacks, which I wanted to have just to show off that like I'm hitting my concrete survivability thresholds and I'm not like relying on dodging to survive anything. Third one is they never crit, and the fourth one is they never take crits. So it's really just for demonstration purposes. In reality, it wouldn't be much, playing the game without that patch wouldn't be much different, except in a couple instances where like the amount of staff experience you get might change. And of course you may have to rewind if you take an untimely crit. And there are just a couple instances where we are relying on engage meters to be filled exactly, and getting a crit at a bad point can disrupt that. But for the most part, in those cases, it's something you could go fix by rewinding and then just doing things in a different sequence. So I'm using that patch basically just to make this a little bit smoother. And so I don't have to like explain something and then rewind because like something went wrong in the RNG and then redo it and have nothing really to talk about. Yeah, so electric PGC, that's basically right. I have infinite hit, infinite dodge, have absolutely no avoid, and no crit. Yeah. So anything else I want to talk about before we get started? Oh yeah. My audio settings for this stream are a little bit different than before, because I'm actually trying out streaming this and recording the different audio tracks separately. So on my original stream setup for Engage, I had some ducking going on where it would decrease the gain volume when I was talking. Now I'm not doing that. So I hope the relative loudness is appropriate. So it's kind of hard to judge here because this scene is pretty quiet, but let me know if the game gets too loud and you can't hear me, or if you can't really hear anything in the game, you'd like that to be louder as well. Okay, just checking through the chat real quick to see if I missed anything. Oh, I sound crisp. Thank you. Okay. Let me think. Is there anything else? I don't believe so. Oh, I do have a couple other mods besides that one. One of them, courtesy of Zone, my collaborator on the Conquest Relay, makes it so that when you do exercises in the Somniel, they complete instantly, which is pretty cool. Another one that we're not actually going to see is instant fishing. We won't get to fishing at any point in this stream. And anything else? Oh yeah, I'll explain. I did a few other custom edits for myself that I'll explain when we get there. Things like changing the support bonuses you get from the arena and stuff like that. Hey, Alchemy Knight, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Instant Wyvern Ride doesn't seem to be possible because you can change the score limits to get the right rewards, but you can't actually make it go faster or make the course shorter. So you can basically just let it go on autopilot for 3 minutes or however long it is, but you can't make it just complete instantly as far as anyone can tell. Not with editing the XML parameters anyway. Okay, I think that's everything on the mod list that I wanted to discuss. And like I said, we'll get to the last few as we get into the game. So let's actually go to the new game menu now. I don't think it really matters at all which gender you pick for Aleer. There are differences, but they're so minute in most cases. I think specifically if you have a plan for Chloe that depends on having specific units near her, this might matter. there are personal skills on people like Rosado and Goldmary that affect them as enemies, but otherwise aren't that important. I would say I can't really speak for before Awakening with FE12, but since Awakening, among the 4 avatars, if you consider how much the game changes based on your choice of gender, like how much your strategies are different, what the experience of playing through it is like, and how different that is depending on your choice. I would say the biggest change happens in Fates, and then probably 3 Houses, and then Awakening, and then this game. And if you're comparing on the basis of which, like how different the 2 genders are in terms of performance, like not just like what different strategies are available to you, but what's actually better. I think in that case, the biggest difference is probably 3 Houses actually, and then Awakening, and then Fates, where Jacob and Felicia end up being surprisingly even, and then this game. Like, it really doesn't make a difference. So yeah, to answer your question, why no arena support? Yeah, that it just makes it so that I'm not getting bonus supports that I can't count on along the way. Yeah, Fates is, the differences are pretty much entirely down to Jacob and Felicia. There are a couple other minor ones. Like, who you can marry is actually a pretty major distinction that affects your long-term game plan, but otherwise, yeah. FE12 meta is very centralized around male Chris. That's interesting. Okay. But just for the sake of variety, I think I'm going to pick female for this stream. Did you plan out your first Master Seal already? Yeah, I have a pretty solid idea of what I want to do with that. Hey Joe, good evening. Yeah, so obviously we're picking Maddening, Classic Mode, 6 growths, and unconnected. And by the way, I am actually on the 1.2.0 patch for this. Up through Chapter 6, there should be absolutely no difference from the current patch and this one. I'm just using this one because the 60 FPS patch works for this, and it hasn't been updated for 1.3.0 yet. Sadly, we're going to skip most of the cutscenes this time. What's the difference for 1.3.0? It changed without DLC. It adds a feature to the Somniel after Chapter 6, where you can get bonus items, including SP books. But before then, there's really no difference.
Move in. I'll remain by your side.
How far are you going through this? Just Chapter 6. That's the plan for this stream. I do anticipate doing a follow-up with some of the, basically the rest of the early game up to Chapter 10 at some point. But I'm not really prepared to cover that, especially in light of the update in 1.3.0. I'm going to keep animations on for my turn only because they're fun. But otherwise, off. Cursor control, obviously. I do appreciate that you can change these settings in Prologue, and you could not do that in Fates, which is one of my annoyances with that game. Okay. Hey, Burrito.
I can fight.
Okay. So I don't think there's a lot to say about this Prologue. Pretty obvious what to do, and there's nothing you can achieve by doing anything different. So we're just going to get through it.
I'll never yield. The time has come.
Now, as one. Emblem Engage!
Sadly, the pre-rendered scenes are all in 30 FPS still.
We are now
My prayers are with you.
You have nothing to celebrate. You are weakness itself. You will never defeat.
All right, world record LTC once again. Are you modding on an emulator or a hacked Switch? On an emulator. I think the Switch would give up and die if you tried to run this game at 60 FPS on that. Poor thing. It's like running the HD texture pack for Fates on an actual 3DS. It's like abuse. What's this prologue supposed to be anyway? I think it's just like a dream sequence where Alir mashes up, spoilers, their memories of actually fighting Sombron one-on-one with the premonition of allies she'll have in the future. That's it. Okay,
What are these creatures?
for chapter 1, the approach I'm going to take might surprise you because I'm not actually going to try to maximize my experience, strictly speaking. I'm trying to do this in, like, I don't care about turn counts really. This whole guide is not, this whole stream is not about minimizing turn counts or anything like that. But I'm trying to do consistent strategies that don't take a lot of time, that don't involve like sitting here and waiting in a bush and healing myself over and over again with vulneraries so that I can milk every last scrap of experience out of the chapter, which is especially difficult here because you do have a crit rate. So like if you were obsessed with getting every point of experience here, it would be kind of annoying if you got early crits. So instead, what I'm going to try to do is just clear this really quickly, give Alir all the kills, of course, and get myself in a convenient position for next map, actually, where I will consistently get more experience there on Bram because I get less experience here. Okay, so we're going to start by attacking the left-hand axe fighter from the right with Vander. The idea being Vander can weaken this guy enough for Alir to kill afterwards. And he'll block in this barbarian on the woods. So this guy will be forced to attack him on enemy phase, and so will this barbarian. This barbarian can't reach either of them from there. So basically, we're going to chip this guy and have Alir kill him, and then Vander's going to weaken 2 enemies on enemy phase. And then he'll weaken this 4th barbarian on the next player phase. By then we'll have 3 enemies who all are on low HP, and we'll kill them all on turn 2. Okay, so Vander attacks from here. Wouldn't you not want XP until you get the ring activated? Yeah, kind of. You can sort of stall here until you get the Marth's ring and then come back and kill stragglers. I just think it's kind of annoying to do that. And it doesn't really matter that much. Like, we're still going to get our important SP targets without delaying like that.
I had to stop you.
Can't remember, but can you miss? You can. In an unmodified game, the enemies here
Too many of them.
can dodge you. They don't all have the avoid ban flag. But I have modified my game for the sake of this demonstration so that my units actually can't miss. Now the funny thing is that that flag that you can set on units makes them never miss with their regular attacks, but they can still miss chain attacks. So those are still unreliable. So anyhow, we weaken both of these enemies, and Alir isn't damaged at all. Now, Vander wants to weaken this healthy fighter. I'm over here. And Alir wants to kill one of these enemies, specifically this one from below, so that this barbarian will only be able to attack from regular ground tiles and not this thicket. He won't be able to get into the thicket because Vander and Alir are both in the way. And similarly, this one can't get into this thicket. So we get almost perfect hit rates on both of them.
I won't forget you.
Break is not unlocked yet, Wheaties. Okay, so we've gotten just about 50 experience now, 52, without getting any SP for that. But that's going to change very soon.
I'll manage.
More enemies.
Elevane, you wish your Nintendo PC could run at 30 FPS. Well, in truth, mine is not succeeding at holding 60 FPS when I'm also streaming and recording, sadly. But it's staying at like 50-ish, and sometimes getting back to 60. But yeah, there are quite a few frame drops. Anyway, this is another case where yes, you could get
I can fight.
technically slightly more XP if you go fight these enemies with the Iron Sword. I'm not really that worried about it at this point. It's not like maximizing experience now doesn't actually pay off for anything in the future, because you just get a higher level and then you get fewer experience points later. So I'm just going to go for a little bit of speed, standing in this thicket with the Rapier equipped. The Rapier does one round these enemies, whereas the Iron Sword does not. And in this thicket, you can fight all 4 of them at the same time. Vander can stand by, but there's actually no mechanical benefit for that. All it does is increase Alir's crit rate, which we don't really care about, and in fact, it could get Alir killed if she doesn't dodge anything and she crits too much. Well, I guess the crits don't really matter for that, but if she doesn't dodge anything. Well, crits do matter because Divine Speed lets her heal if she gets her 3rd attack in. You don't get support points for fighting on enemy phase adjacent to each other, so there's really no reason to have Vander anywhere but just like out of the way. You can build support here, just not on enemy phase. Is it possible to get Mercurius before unlocking Arena? Yes. You can get it in Chapter 4. It's just really painful to make Alir and Marth see that much player phase combat together in Chapter 4. And you only get bond points on player phase as well, similar to support points. Is there a date for the next Conquest episode? I haven't recorded the footage yet. I do know what I'm going to do. I'll probably record that this weekend, I think. Then I'll work on production next week. So hopefully soon. the button? Oh yeah. We don't have any need to talk to these people, so we're just gonna leave.
Let's head to the castle.